The lyrics, take me to another place, take me to another land, make me forget all that hurts me and help me understand your plan, comes from a real place because I didn't know what was going to happen next. When I rapped in Tennessee, Lord, I've been really stressed, down and out, losing ground. Although I am black and proud, problems got me pessimistic. Brothers and sisters keep messing up. Why does it have to be so darn tough? I don't know where I can go to let these ghosts out of my skull. My grandma passed, my brother's gone. I never at once felt so alone.
What's happening, y'all? This is Mike D with Black Fathers Now, where we're bringing the village to the brothers. Every couple of weeks, you can look forward to a quick inspirational message or a thought-provoking guest with knowledge and wisdom, all geared towards helping you be the best father that you can be. We're bringing the village to you. Now it's your turn to do something with what you learned. All right, y'all. Let's go. What's going on, fellas? This is Mike D with Black Fathers Now. And yo, we got a dope episode today for you. I'm gonna lead into this a little bit, okay? The brother that we have on is a husband and a father, right? He was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, raised in Ripley, Tennessee, prior to moving to Georgia. But guess what? He's also a multi-Grammy Award winner, Soul Train Award winner, MTV Award winner, NAACP Image Award winner, producer, writer, entrepreneur, and so much more. Fellas in the Black Fathers Now family, I want to welcome my man, Brother Speech. What's going on, man?
I'm doing great, bro. That was a great intro. Thank you.
Yeah, I practiced that a few times. Repetition's the mother of learning, right?
I love it. Yeah, man, I'm doing good, brother. Doing good.
Good, man. Well, man, I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to holler at us today and just kind of share a little bit about your journey and your story, your inspirations and all. And but before we get started, the tagline for Black Fathers Now is we bring the village to the brothers, right? Bringing the village to the brothers. And first and foremost, before we get started, I always like to have the brothers give shout outs because you need to give a shout out to your village because, look, you're only as good as those that are around you, dig? So, yeah, so give a shout out to your fam, to your village, those that are supporting you right now, man. Go ahead and take the floor.
Sure, yeah, I want to give a big shout out to my mother and my father, first of all, my queen, my wife, Yolanda, my kids, Jahi and Zoe, my fam, people that work with me, Tiffany, Mike, and my man Byron, all of them, and Danielle, his wife. So all of them is my peoples right now. We just and I could go on and on, but those are the ones that's closest.
Absolutely, man. No doubt, no doubt. Again, you gotta give shout outs where they're due, and we put that out front. Most people wait to the end to give shout outs. We're like, no. The village comes first, dig it?
I love it. Definitely.
No doubt, man. No doubt. So, just your story, man. I mean, you've been very visible for the last 3 decades, but take us back, man. Take us back to, being born in Milwaukee and growing up, Ripley, Tennessee. People don't know Ripley. I actually live in Knoxville, Tennessee, right? So I know a little bit about
where do you live?
I live in Knoxville. So we're
word up, Knoxville, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm from Augusta, Georgia originally. So I'm from Georgia. Cool. Yeah, so look, you did Tennessee to Georgia. I did Georgia to Tennessee.
Right, there you go. Yeah.
What, take me to another place?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so talk to us about growing up, man.
Well, I grew up in Milwaukee, very segregated town, still is. But I had a very charmed upbringing, to some extent. The racism was very heavy, so that's the part that wasn't charmed. My mother and father were great parents. They did divorce when I was young, but unlike many parents, they stayed friends the whole time. Like to this day, they're still really close. My mom and dad chose me and my brother over their problems. So even when they had problems, even when they decided to divorce, they chose us and over those problems and remained really close. Like my mother, I have to give her the most props because my father was the one that sort of caused the divorce. My mother, she stayed strong and really not only forgave him in a spiritual sense, but she was mature enough to realize the important role that he was going to play in my life and really stayed really close friends with him despite the hurt that he caused her at the time. And he'll say the same thing, we both give her so much love. So yeah, I was raised in a single parent household, but my father was still involved even though they were divorced. And I had my older brother Terry was 7 years older than me, and just a very strong man. So that was my upbringing in Milwaukee. My mother owns the largest black newspaper in Milwaukee to this day.
Wow.
And she owned it when I was a kid too. So I had the opportunity of seeing black entrepreneurship. I had the opportunity of seeing activism, civil rights issues at the breakfast table every morning. So, I was around a very black and active family, a lot of African art throughout the house, and a trip to Africa when I was 2, so
Wow.
My family was very on top of it and striving to teach me what being black in America was all about.
Wow. Now you said your mother, she still has one of the largest or the largest black owned newspaper in America currently? Give it a shout out.
Wisconsin.
Well, it's Wisconsin. Give it a shout out, man.
No doubt. It's called the Milwaukee Community Journal. And it's the #1 African-American newspaper in Wisconsin. And it's going on 44 years. So It's been a minute, since I was 6. I'm 50 now.
Wow. You said something there that was so powerful, man. You said, your parents stayed friends and they chose us over their problems.
They did. They did.
That thing will preach, brother.
Bro, I'll be honest with you. A lot of life's decisions a lot of life is about decisions. It's about choices. And she made that choice. She's made a lot of other choices that were very intentional. And same with my father, a lot of intentional, choices. And even when they did divorce, for instance, my father gave her the house. Now, he was the breadwinner pretty much prior to her getting the divorce. He was the breadwinner. He was the one bringing in the money. And yet he wanted to set us up to win too. So I give my father props. And when they divorced, he didn't want her to be without a house. He knew she was going to be the primary custody person for us. And he wanted her to be set up to win. So he moved into an apartment complex. It's actually the same complex that the infamous Jeffrey Dahmer would end up doing a lot of these murders in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee. My father lived in that same complex. And the truth is he gave up sort of a nice middle-class home in order to make sure my mom and me and my brother were taken care of. So I give him props as well.
Fellas, I hope y'all are paying attention to that. Just that concept alone is worth us just diving into, but we're going to keep moving. But the whole notion of they chose us over their problems, and to me, when you think about manhood, right? We think about manhood from a physical perspective of, who's the biggest man, or somebody say something to my girl, I'm going to go kick we're thinking about it from that perspective. Manhood is about actions, being decisive, but then also thinking about the bigger picture. And
that's correct.
Your father set the stage for manhood by saying, you know what, I will go live in the apartment. I understand that mom and dad aren't going to be together. I'll go live in the apartment because you said something powerful there. He was setting us up to win.
That's right.
That in itself is something that I wonder if little things like that or little inspirations or little nuggets like that stayed in your spirit as you started matriculating through this life, in the very public eye.
Bro, not only did it stay in a little way, it really was the foundation of who I am. I saw it. And I know you were just speaking, but it's so not little too. You know what I mean? Because it's like setting your kids up and setting your people up to win is what I believe manhood is about. And womanhood, my mother did the same thing. It's really what it's all about. And as I'm now obviously an adult with two children biologically and one adopted son of my own, it's the same difference. I'm setting them up to win. I want them to win. And so whatever we could do to set them up, that's the key. That's the thing that I feel is my biggest role. And to set my queen up as well, my wife, to set her up to win. So that's the goal. Set
up to win. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's I interviewed a brother, it was a few months ago, and he did like high jump. So he did the high jump at University of Tennessee. And one of the things that he talked about was this thing called the penultimate, right? And see, I'm not a high jumper. I'm barely, I claim 5'7", but I ain't quite there yet. And so vertically challenged. So high jump. It's all good. We bring other things to the table. But the thing is, he talked about this thing called the penultimate, which is in essence the step before the last step when you do the high jump. And in essence, in the schematics of taking or doing the high jump, he mentioned how the penultimate, or that step before the last step, was the most important, because that's where you get your momentum. That's where you set everything up. And that, in essence, is the thing that propels you to get over the bar. And so to me, hearing that, I try to think about connections. I think about just this whole premise of you creating things to set others up for success. It's kind of like that penultimate step that you're taking.
Yep. I love that. I love that analogy you use. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
And so you move from Milwaukee to Ripley, Tennessee. Now, Ripley is north of Memphis, correct?
Yeah. So, I was actually in a smaller town even than Ripley, but I say Ripley because people never know this town I'm about to mention. It's called Glimp. Glimp, Tennessee has less than 1,000 people in it, probably. I'm not sure, but very, very small rural town. And I didn't move there per se. I used to go there every summer. So my grandmother, my father's mother, lived there, and she had acres of land. She had, snap peas and greens and various things that she was growing in the back there, and wild hogs, chickens, stuff like this. And so long story short, it was farm life. And I would go there every summer and spend about 3 months out of the year there. And then a little time in East St. Louis, which was my mother's hometown, my mother's hometown as well. East St. Louis. So East St. Louis, Glimp, Tennessee, and Milwaukee. Those were the 3 places I would go every year.
Wow. And so you had the awareness of who you were. Like, again, when I go back to just thinking about like the steps that your parents took, like you went to Africa as a 2-year-old, the whole Black Power movement, just understanding who you are. You just had this sense of self in the midst of, and you were born late 60s. So you were in the tail end of the civil rights movement, and just all of that was coming together and culminating. But then you juxtapose that to having this 3-month country experience where you were out kind of in the middle of nowhere. You had the best of both worlds, so to speak.
Yeah, I was born in 1968, the same year Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated.
Absolutely.
And my mother was obviously pregnant during the time of all of that turmoil. And that's part of my DNA. And then my parents being about the struggle, to me, that needs to be the normal way Black kids are raised. That's my dream. That's my goal as I strive to teach people in prisons now or at schools. I strive to teach parents and kids that the normal way of Black people living should be how I was raised, basically understanding our root and connection to Africa, understanding who we are historically in this country, understanding the how far behind we are in this country by nature of the history of this country, and then being determined to rise above it despite it. Those are the things that I feel are necessary for all Black people, not just me. I was fortunate enough to have that, but I really wish that upon every parent. I believe it's important.
And it's so powerful to hear you tell this story and really talk about it, because it gives a further understanding of the background with Arrested Development. So when we hear the music now and we see the Daishikis back before they were cool around everybody, and really the truly empowering messages and really conscious and woke before everybody woke up. You know what I'm saying? Like, this really helped to give me a perspective to inform me as to some of the background behind a lot of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, don't get me wrong. Just like any young teen, the same as many young teens, my mom and dad were conscious and they were all up on it, but I wasn't trying to hear that for certain parts of my teenage years.
Absolutely.
And yet when I got a little older, I tried, being a gangster hip hop artist. I tried doing a lot of things, but I realized that who I really am is just who I am. And that was Arrested Development. Like, when I finally came up with doing a group called Arrested Development, that's when I finally said, you know what, I just got to be who I am. And that's what the music reflected, was basically who I am.
And so, speaking of music, just kind of jumping into that, like, where did that come from? Were you always a musical brother? Were you always someone who was musically inclined, or were you exposed to something and you just kind of just pursued it? Like, how did this thing kind of come to fruition as well?
Well, I always loved music. When I saw the Jackson 5, they used to have a cartoon show back in the 60s or 70s. And I used to watch it. And Michael Jackson was one of my favorites. This is prior to his solo career. And I just was like idolizing him, and I wanted to be like him. So even as about 5 years old, I wanted to dance, sing, like Michael Jackson. But then when I got introduced to hip hop music, that really changed my whole perspective. I was about probably about 12 or so when I heard Rapper's Delight. I forget the exact year, but somewhere in the late 70s, I heard Rapper's Delight, and it just blew my mind. And from that point on, I wanted to be in hip hop. And I started off as a DJ. My father owned a nightclub. As I told you, he was an entrepreneur. Now, my dad, at certain points, owned a gas station. He owned a nightclub. He owned two different restaurants. He owned a catering business, a fast food restaurant. So in a small newspaper prior to my mother doing hers. So, he was very much a serial entrepreneur. And in Milwaukee in the early 70s, he was named as the best businessman in Milwaukee. Not the best black businessman, just the best businessman.
Wow, that's powerful.
It was really powerful. I'm very proud of him. And at the same time, though, being a black man, tall, dark-skinned, 6'4", with a very light-skinned wife, black but light-skinned wife, high yellow wife, and racist tenants in Wisconsin. And so they came after him, and they really crushed a lot of his business endeavors. Before they knew it, he had all types of tax things leaned up against him, taking his properties, taking his businesses. And so my mother had to step up and do many things in that era. And that's when she started her newspaper. So it was a lot of ups and downs because of the racism. It really wasn't even him doing anything wrong with his taxes. They just came after him and found various things against him and just started destroying his success, his run of successes. So that also happens here in the States. We've seen it with, whether it's Black Wall Street or, down in Florida or numerous communities where we're starting to do well, whether it's Tulsa or Florida or Mississippi. We're starting
Seneca Village in New York, everywhere.
That's correct. And the government starts to come after us and find ways to destroy us. That is exactly what happened. My father was getting too big, too powerful, too quick. And they came after him. He was doing nothing illegal, but they still came after him.
Wow. And so it's just like, and it's amazing because you were witness to all of this. And then
all of it,
plus more. And then, a few years later, you were blessed to use your talent and be in a position to basically have this meteoric rise to everybody in the world knows who Speech is. How did all of those experiences you grew up with, how did those experiences then inform you as now you're on the cover of everything, on every video across the world, you're selling out arenas and all? How did that inform your psyche? How did that inform your spirit, so to speak, knowing all the things that you knew growing up with, your parents and their entrepreneurial journeys?
Well, a few things. One is that I knew I couldn't rely on the system to maintain my celebrity and my fame and my status. I had to go independent. And so right off my mother, again, set me up to win. As soon as Arrested Development blew up, she moved from Milwaukee to Atlanta. She helped me set up my business. And I set up a business called Vagabond, which still exists today. And we basically bought at first a house and later moved into a building, a commercial building. And that was where we did all of the business aspect of Arrested Development. So that really helped me to, number one, save a lot of money, not rely on business managers and other people to deal with the money aspect of the group and the success we were getting. But it also taught us how to be more independent as a group. So it wasn't just me doing this. Like, it was myself leading Vagabond, the company I just mentioned. But even in the group, Airly Tari, one of the other members, she would be doing all of our styling. Razadam, one of the other members, was doing all of our branding and marketing. He did the logos for the group and so on and so forth. So it was a very much a do-it-yourself, self-determination outfit. That's what we were all about, was striving to do as much as we could on our own so that they couldn't take the success from us, because we knew that with the messages we were sharing, it was just a matter of time before the mainstream music industry would not see us as advantageous. And so we was really on that type of, consciousness and thought process from the very beginning.
Wow. I mean, y'all were on what everybody is proposing and talking about now, with the unfortunate passing recently of Nipsey Hussle, that really kind of opened up the floodgates to this notion of ownership and controlling and doing all of these things and making moves behind the scenes, so to speak. And it becoming mainstream, and this is what everybody should be doing. But it's interesting, you all had this playbook 25, 26 years ago, like,
Yeah.
and you don't hear a whole lot about that on the front end, whereas this thing here needs to be out front. Like, brother, that's powerful.
Well, I appreciate that very much, bro. And I will say this, you know, you saw the Nigga Factory.
Mm-hmm.
There is a concerted effort to strive to not just mash us down as a people, but mash down the ideas, views, and business ownership and so on and so forth. We were still a conscious hip hop group. And so it was very tough for us to navigate in that music industry with that with lyrics of consciousness and Black power and self determination. These were very hard concepts to consistently push through. Whereas you got people like, I'm not even gonna mention names, but you got others in the hip hop community who are moguls, multi-millionaires, almost, well, even some billionaires. But the content was much more safe in the sense of what white supremacist ideas would like our content to be as a people. It was very much in line with degrading our women, in line with degrading our men, talking about killing one another. You know, it's funny, I was seeing, I'm not gonna mention the group, I was watching a Mountain Dew commercial today actually, and it's of a gangster hip hop group that, you know, numerous records talks about selling drugs, talks about killing one another as far as killing another Black man. Dogs our women out in various lyrical content, and yet they're riding on the equivalent of big wheels in a little room. It's for a Mountain Dew commercial. It's as kiddie as ever, and the people they're riding the big wheels with is some little Asian little girl and a little white boy. And the point is that even though these lyrics dog our women, talk about violence to our men, talk about drug dealing to our people, these rappers are still like little, they're like little pets. They're cute to the white society. They're totally acceptable to white society. Whereas Arrested Development, who talks about self-determination, or Public Enemy, Chuck D, or X-Clan, you'll never see us getting any type of mainstream exposure to that extent. We have to go at ours in another type of, you know, hustle. We have to really work like 5 times as hard to get even a small increment as much support as a lot of those artists that I'm mentioning that they're on the little big wheels and the kiddie concepts. It's, you know, I think it was Chuck D from Public Enemy that said, I think he called it a nigger row. And
wow.
I guess his point is that it's a Black man that's dangerous to other Black men, but 100% harmless to white society. And that's who they allow to gates. And that's who they will publicize and put up on a pedestal, where Black men like myself or many, many others in the hip hop game that speak about numerous heavy issues will get sort of filtered out, and you won't see us in mainstream as easily. So Arrested Development got through that. But I think one of the reasons that we weren't able to maintain it as long on a mainstream level was because of what I'm talking about. And that's one of the reasons that the Nigga Factory is so important, the documentary that I'm doing. I've done part 1 and 2. I'm working on 3 literally today. And so we'll be finished with that soon, and it'll be out soon too. So anyway, I know we're on a different topic.
No, it's all good, man. You got this all applies, man.
It's about manhood too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? About what being a real man is, and what being a Black man is, and being conscientious of the games that are played on us. So,
dude, everything that you're saying, it takes me back to this whole notion of you were set up to win. You were set up to win. Like, no matter what the system has done, you were set up to win. Right. And we talk about manhood. Our job is to set others up to win, to set our communities up to win, to set our families up, to set our kids up to win. And what's interesting, when you mentioned the journey of the story of you all created this system, your mom came down and you all, in essence, created this ecosystem, this entrepreneurial ecosystem that everybody is aspiring to now, saying, screw the labels, we're doing our own thing, and we're using Instagram and all of that to do our own thing. That's what you all, in essence, put out or laid out there 26, 27 years ago. And
Correct.
that also led to the longevity of folks still talking about speech now, right? And talking about arrested development now, because you all had this infrastructure in place that was not reliant upon a system that you knew couldn't save you anyway.
That's correct. Everything you just said is exactly what we were striving to do. And it's why I'm relevant right now. It's why the group is relevant. We still tour constantly throughout the world and the United States. We still are putting out relevant music, and we're still doing things like the documentaries. I did another documentary called 16 Bars. It's about me going into the jail for 10 days to work with inmates on music. And that drops in October of this year, God willing. And we just finished a film festival circuit. It's won about 6 or 7 film festival awards already. I've lost count, but it's getting great reviews. And I'm really excited and grateful for that too.
Man, I'm excited to see it, man. Again, and it's interesting because, you know, I was a fan way back in the day, but then I got reintroduced to you when I saw this thing floating about the nigga factory. Like when that thing started popping, I was just like, yo, let me dive into it. And I'm going to tell you, that was that. But then on your YouTube channel, you did this. You were just basically opening up about like your spiritual walk. And that was the thing that literally touched my soul. I was just like, yo, I got to talk to this brother, man. And so
thank you.
So if you don't, I mean, if you don't mind kind of diving into that part of it, like talk to us a little bit about navigating in this very public life, but then how that is lockstep with your spiritual walk as well.
Yeah. Well, I never, you know, for me personally, I've always felt like the public life and fame and all of that is almost like living in a dream world. It's not necessarily real. It's a lot of fronting for the cameras. There's a lot of, and not just from the people like the artists. I'm not even saying that. The whole idea of it is fronting for the camera. And so I never wanted to truly put my most personal and deep eggs in that basket. I love performing and I love being famous. I love people knowing what I'm doing. I love being a very big instrumental part of hip hop. I love all of that. But when it came to like what I really felt was needed to anchor myself as a human being, I didn't want to rely on any of that. Like I felt like there's something much deeper than all of that. And that's God. And so for me, not having a spiritual foundation and root, I felt like I would easily lose myself. And I see so many brothers and sisters doing just that, not knowing that there is no real anchor in that. Those things, if you rely on fame and all of those types of things for your self-esteem, for who you are as a human being, it's easily fleeting. It's like beauty. The Bible says beauty is fleeting.
Absolutely.
It's the same difference. The Bible talks about money and it says you could have a lot of money, but just like a bird, it can up and fly away. And we've seen that more times than not. Most of the artists, most of the people that we've seen that have done extremely well have lost that money by the end of their life. And so it's not something to anchor your life on, and God is that thing. And so I've known that since I was much younger, but I really got serious about it about 23 years ago. I got serious about it and became a disciple of Jesus, a Christian, and really changed my life in some fundamental ways.
That's, again, man, family set you up to win, but then on a personal level, you were rooted in something bigger than yourself.
No doubt. No doubt.
And that is a relationship with God. I mean, it's like, because that was one of the things I was going to ask you, is like, in the midst of all of this, you know, yes, you had the support. Yes, you had the village, but even still, how do you personally stay rooted and stay grounded? And I think you pretty much explained that to us. Well,
brother, let me tell you, I mean, from personal experience, I mentioned to you earlier that I have a brother, 7 years, my elder. He died at a very early age. He died at 29 of an asthma attack. It was the exact same week that my grandmother, who I used to visit in Tennessee, died. Wow. She died of a heart attack. And what that taught me in a very real way was that family, even the village, it can disappear. It's not enough to anchor you for your entire life. It is important. And I'm not saying that the village isn't important. God gave us family for a foundational support system. Despite whatever else the world is doing, he gave us family for that foundation and that support. So I do appreciate it, and I know that it's a powerful part, but even more powerful than your blood family, because obviously you know, and many people that's listening know, that families can also fail at their intended purpose, their God
Absolutely.
intended divine purpose. And so God himself is still more important than even our family connections. And I've known that for years, but seeing my brother die, seeing my grandmother die, same week, the lyrics, take me to another place, take me to another land, make me forget all that hurts me and help me understand your plan, comes from a real place because I didn't know what was going to happen next. When I rapped in Tennessee, Lord, I've been really stressed, down and out, losing ground. Although I am black and proud, problems got me pessimistic. Brothers and sisters keep messing up. Why does it have to be so darn tough? I don't know where I can go to let these ghosts out of my skull. My grandma passed, my brother's gone. I never at once felt so alone, so on and so forth. So I know you're supposed to be my steering wheel, not just my spare tire. And those lyrics are all about the fact that you could lose family, you could lose this, the village, but God at the end of the day has the plan, and we have to follow those steps.
Brothers, wow. Like, wow. Think about that. What are you anchored in? Like, I think about that. Like, what are you anchored in? What is that thing that's bigger than you? Because, I mean, we have to have that. And I think, to your point, a lot of the issues that we deal with, a lot of the things are just the fact that we're not anchored. We don't have that family support. Some of us, that's why we're creating this village. Black Fathers Now is bringing the village to the brothers via technology, podcast, YouTube and all. But the other part to it is you have to be anchored in something that's even bigger than that, because people fail you. I mean, from a biblical perspective, you shouldn't put faith in man, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Man is imperfect. There's not one perfect man on this earth. And so you put your faith in man. What happens when that man disappoints you?
That's correct.
Faith. And so, brother, that's powerful. And dude, I mean, literally your life and your experiences are just, you are a movie in itself. Like, I don't know, have you done a movie yet on your life?
No, but we are working on it. I have a wonderful woman who's the professor at Spelman College for movie and film. Her name is April Lundy. Her and I have been working on a script because, the biggest part about a film is the script. If you get a great script, even if someone has never heard of Arrested Development, even if they could care less about who we are or who speech is, if a script and a story is good, then you can get anybody to listen and watch anything. And so that's the key. We just want to make a great script. So yes, we are working on a movie.
I was about to say, I figured that. I mean, my little wheels are turning. I'm assume that. And so with these experiences, man, and all of this, you mentioned that you're a husband and a father. How have these experiences, the worldwide success and the family structure, the unit of setting up for success, and then you're rooted, spiritual groundings, and how have all these things you've been exposed to, how have they impacted you as a husband and a father?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest impact for me as a husband and father has been Jesus. I'll be honest, because his wisdom, the scriptures, they have helped to be the thing that, like I said a second ago, grounds me, has trained me, and really has molded me and refined me. So I'll say that because, as I told you earlier, my father, even though he set my mother up to win, the reason they divorced was because of him. There was a lot of generational curses or problems that really was passed down to me, that if it wasn't for Jesus and him being bigger than me and me deciding to follow what he has to say, I would have made the same mistakes. I must say, I probably wouldn't be on this show because anything about fathers, I probably would have made some really big mistakes being a father and also being a husband. I know I would have made some really big mistakes because I was on the trail of doing that when I was really approached for being a Christian by some people. And I shared that on my YouTube thing on how I was approached about it and what really moved me about it. But, take that experience away of Christianity, I think I would have made some really big mistakes. And I'd just be, I probably would have learned from them, but I would have made some pretty big mistakes. Yeah.
And so thinking about that and understanding your personal experience, what is some wisdom that you would drop to the brothers that are listening, as it pertains to fatherhood, to relationships, to, thinking about life and, capturing who you are, understanding who you are. Like, what is some wisdom from brother speech to the brothers that are listening?
Well, I say this, in my opinion, the priorities you should have in life is number one, God. So you're first striving to get lockstep in sync with God. And then number two priority, if you're married, is your wife, not your kids, your wife. Really making sure that you're helping her spiritually, that you're lifting her up spiritually, and you're lockstep and in sync with her. Then your kids, because it's like when you're on the airplane and they tell you if there's a loss of pressure, you put on your mask first, and then you help your children with their mask. You can't help anybody under you or that's in your control in a sense if you yourself are not straight. You got to get yourself straight with God. Then your wife, you need to help her and be in there with her, and then both of y'all together help your children. So I would say get that stuff, your priority straight. There's so many marriages that are no longer in it for God, or maybe never were, or they're in it for their children and not even in it for each other. And that's, to me, a wrong place to be. There's going to be a time period, if you last in your marriage, that your kids will leave the house and it's back to just you and your husband or you and your wife. And
Absolutely.
You need to be able to have that relationship on really tight. And your kids need to see that, because they're looking for examples. There's so many kids that don't even want to get married. They don't think marriage is a reliable or even a productive institution. And so when you do have that relationship tight with your wife, then they could see a great example and hope for similar results in their life, or even better results for their life. So I would tell the brothers, get your priorities straight, man. God first. And that means a lot of the things that we may be doing, you have to shed. You have to allow God to refine you. That's the same difference with me. I'm not speaking like I know better than you. I'm saying to the brothers that this is what I did too. Allow God to refine you and make you a better human being, the one that he intended you to be. And then, of course, the wife and the children. So that's what I would say. Priorities.
Priorities and that divine order, man. That's what it's all about, man. And you mentioned something there about the example. And again, that plays back into the notion of the example set by your parents in regards to setting you up for success. There's a poem that I learned a long time ago. It's called Live Your Creed by Langston Hughes. And it starts off with his first, I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. That's the first stanza. Then that last stanza says, for I may misunderstand you in the fine advice you give, but there's no misunderstanding how you act and how you live. And so,
love it.
Yeah, so to the notion of really being that living, that tangible example, we can say it, but are we living it? Do our actions map to our words? And you know, brother, you're so full. I mean, brother, speech is brother preach, man. You bringing all kind of wisdom tonight, man. And so
I appreciate that, man.
No doubt, man. And so, you know, so if the brothers wanted to hear more from you and check out what you have going on, see the Nigga Factory, see all the music, see where you're touring, because you're still actively touring all around the world. I mean, I see that periodically too. You know, where can we check things out? How can we follow you, and how can we support, man?
Well, first of all, thank you for the support. You go to brotherspeech.com. Okay. Brother, then speech, SPEECH.com. And on there, we have all the things, or I have all the things that I'm doing. As you already mentioned, you can sign my mailing list and you can get the updates on all of our tours. You can get the new music. You can get, you can view the Nigga Factory Part 1 and 2 already. 16 bars. You can see where that's playing in a town near you. And I also have two other important things that I'm proud of. One is my queen and I, my wife, we have an art school called the Victory Spot. It's here in Georgia, which is where I live. And we are a full-fledged art school. We teach acting, dance, production, voice, instruments like bass, guitar, drums, all of these things. So we teach a lot of great things for the young generation. And then another thing that I'm very proud of, when my brother died at 29, my mother and I started a scholarship fund in his name. It's called the Terrence Thomas Scholarship Fund. We've been running that for the last 27 years, and it is now up to $1 million that we have given away to college students, Black college students, people that are looking to get their children through school. You want to reach out, get on my website, brotherspeech.com. And you may be able to qualify, or your children, I should say, may be able to qualify for help and financial help to get through college. So that's another thing that I'm extremely excited about and want people to know more about. So yeah, all of that is on brotherspeech.com.
All right, fellas, brotherspeech.com. Literally check him out, get on the mailing list. And then once you get there, get on the YouTube channel, follow the brother on social media. He's always dropping stuff, and you can follow him around the world when he's touring. And I mean, see him and his beautiful wife and just having a good time and showing us how, you know, how the good life is, right? How you live the good life, right?
I love it, man. That's awesome.
I love it, brother. And man, again, I want to thank you so much for coming on and really just spending time with us and, you know, sharing some of your wisdom, sharing some of your story, but then also pouring into us and giving us a window into you and understanding how you stay grounded, because this thing is much bigger than both of us. And we're just part of this whole equation here. We're pieces to the puzzle, and we're doing our part.
Man, well, thank you for having the show, man. I really appreciate it. When I saw what it was about, that's why I agreed to do it in the first place. I want to lift up the brothers that are fathers, man. Much love to y'all. Much strength to you. We're all in this together, man. Let's lift each other up. Yeah. No
yes,
doubt.
That's it. Got to lift each other up, man. And definitely, again, thank Brother Speech for coming online. Again, y'all visit him. Visit brotherspeech.com. You can catch all of his links, and you can get everything. Sign up for his mailing list. Support. Check out 16 Bars. It's in a theater near you somewhere. Check out the Nigger Factory. It is awesome. It'll change your perspective on the industry. Like, literally, the brother knows from the inside. Check that out. Make sure to also look at the Victory Spot. If you're in Metro Atlanta, check out the Victory Spot. They have some really dope stuff going on. And if you're a student currently right now, the Terrence Thomas Scholarship, which is currently on brotherspeech.com, you can get more information about that. And make sure when you reach out to him, let him know you heard about him on Black Fathers Now. And we got to keep this brother moving, man, because you're really doing some good stuff, man. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Now, fellas, as always, make sure to follow Black Fathers Now. Visit blackfathersnow.com. Follow Black Fathers Now on all social media outlets. Also, visit blackfamilyapparel.com. Grab some dope apparel that celebrates the nuances of the Black family. And again, until next time, fellas, y'all be blessed, well, and wise. And I'll holler at you. Peace. Yo, fellas, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And always visit blackfathersnow.com, as well as follow Black Fathers Now on virtually every social media platform you can think of. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. Just follow us and engage with us, man. Look forward to hearing from you. And I guess until next time, I'll holler at you. Peace.